And we are back with another week of the Sunshine State Happy Hour powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. This is Dave, your host and author. Find us at Florida Beer Blog on the interwebs, FloridaBeerBlog.com. We're at Florida Beer Blog on pretty much every major social media channel, unless you're watching us on Facebook, at which time you already know that we are not on Florida Beer Blog. So a couple things kind of go over before we get started. First of all, thank you so much for hanging in there. I had my cable cut by our municipal landscapers on Thursday morning, which is why we were dark Thursday and Friday, but we are back, and our cable company has assured me that this is a stronger signal, so we shall see if that actually works. Second thing I do want to do is plug the Florida Beer Podcast. We just released our recent episode, an interview with DC Reeves, the owner of Perfect Plain Brewing up in Pensacola. He has actually literally written the book on what it takes to open up a brewery, and I was good enough to get one of those books in the mail, so I am going to be cracking this bad boy by the pool as soon as I can. But enough about Pensacola. We are actually going to be going to Springfield today, which, if you know anything about Florida, Springfield is actually a neighborhood in Jacksonville and not where the Simpsons live. And what's nice about the main street in Springfield is that it's home to not one but two awesome breweries. I was lucky enough to go to them both. But the first one that I went to was Hyperion Brewing, one of the newer Jacksonville breweries, which is excellent. And we are here with Alex McKeown, one of the owners of Hyperion Brewing. Alex, how are you doing up in Duuuuuval?
We're doing good. We're starting to see some openings here, so we're hoping to be a part of phase 2 for the governor, and eager to see our customers again.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't actually have an on-site kitchen, so technically you can't be open right now. It's limited just to places that would technically serve food and be restaurant-ish, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Steve, how are we doing today?
We're doing fine. Nice day off. Hung out, played video games,
Of course
usual.
Of course you did. And I know that we are all drinking, so Steve, I'm going to start with you. What are you consuming as of right now?
IPA 1A from 26 degrees.
The classic, of course. Alex, I will let you go next.
I have to be drinking Hyperion beer, right? That's the whole point. So
well,
I'm
of course.
Psychedelic Werewolf, which is our hazy IPA.
Psychedelic Werewolf. Nice. What does that have in it?
It's a hazy, but we use all of the classic Fisher hops. So I think if I give too much of it away, Matt might be upset with me. So.
I'm going to kind of be in between the two of you in terms of distance, because I've noticed that every so often Ivanhoe Park Brewing, which is right in the outskirts of downtown Orlando, likes to pop in and watch this show. So I'm actually going to be a complete and total hoser and be drinking one of their Joyland IPAs, which was actually going to be the name of the brewery based on the amusement park that was in Orlando well before Disney. So hopefully they, if they're watching, hi, I'm out, send me more. So Alex, tell us a little bit about Hyperion, because as I was telling Steve when I was there, it was interesting in that it wasn't a big brew system that focuses on maybe one or two core beers and has a little smattering of others. I was instead shown to a room full of one barrel fermenters, all of which was absolutely crazy, and each as different as the last.
Yeah, and it depends on when you saw us. In the first year of business, we kind of be really, really innovative and experimental. So we make the same batch twice in the first year. So even when we made our most popular beer and was starting to develop that blood orange blonde, we did make that 2 times in the first year, but we changed ingredients significantly because we were experimenting. So we made over 210 different unique batches on a 1 barrel system, which is pretty nuts. We haven't seen anyone else do it yet. Only to toot our own horn, I mean, we're essentially home brewing on a larger scale. All of our pots are open and exposed. You know, sometimes you see them, they're contained. What we do is we put them in dairy containers. So we fill the plastic 1 barrel containers with dairy industry, and kind of copied another method that way. So we air condition the entire room to ferment the beers rather than controlling the temperature of each tank and vessel. So it's kind of cool and innovative, but starting year 2, we thought that's crazy unrealistic. We can't sustain at that pace year after year. So we now have 6 core beers every time someone comes in, and then we just rotate through seasonals, popular recipes that people love that we bring back, and then we still experiment here and there.
Excellent. Was there a little bit of, I don't want to say stress, but I guess nerves when trying to crack into the community of breweries that is Jacksonville? Because, obviously it's not as well known as Tampa, but I would definitely say that it's the second biggest city in Florida when it comes to craft beer. And they may not be world renowned, but in terms of determining a lot of the trends in the state, people like Ardwolf and Intuition, and even places like Main and Six and you, and I'm trying to think, there's one that's escaping me, Bold City, obviously, and obviously going down to Jacksonville Beach and Rev and Green Room and all those places. Was it difficult to sort of decide to put yourself among people like that?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Especially being like a sole woman too. I mean, Bold City, it was started with a mom and a son. But at the time too, most of us in the brewing industry start with very little experience. So you already have that kind of working against you. And the competition in Jacksonville is actually really fierce. They don't get always the credit that they deserve in the craft beer industry here in Florida. No. But I mean, Ardwolf is impressive. Green Room Brewing, the brewer Eric Lumen actually started a new company here called Rev or Reeve, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
I can't. What's the correct? I can't get a straight answer.
I don't know. Actually, I haven't actually heard him say it, so I don't know. I've heard customers say it differently. So until he corrects me, I'm going to keep saying Rev.
Yeah.
I mean, and his stuff is amazing. Literally, his menu, when you read it, he only makes 3 types of beer. He's making IPAs, he's making sours, and imperials, whether that be like a Belgian imperial or an IPA imperial. And so when you go, you're going specifically for those things, and he's doing them really, really well. So at Hyperion, when we first entered the scene, it was really important that we be different, that we be welcoming, and that we, do our best to provide the highest quality that we can provide on the system that we make. And we're like always constantly up against that battle because the competition is continuing to do the same thing. No, I mean, I say competition because that's what we are. It's super friendly behind the scenes, especially right now with COVID. We've been all, keeping tabs on one another. But I mean, we really do to kind of be better. You see Intuition do something cool, you want to try it, get better, right?
Well, it's that friendly competition that breweries have that people don't realize, that you guys are all friends. You want to see each other succeed, but you want to beat each other at the next competition too.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the nice things that Jacksonville has, that some regions in Florida have, maybe not nearly as strong and as old as Jacksonville does, and I wish I had thought about bringing my book, is that your Visitors Bureau has created an ale trail. They support it pretty well with a lot of merchandise and keeping the booklet, and it is a booklet, up and running with that. So have they been able to sort of help create something to assist everybody when dealing with the bizarre economic downturn that we're experiencing?
It's unfortunate we haven't heard anything yet from Visit Jacksonville, who hosts the Jacksonville Ale Trail. They are specifically a tourist, like their mission is to bring tourism to Jacksonville. So I don't want to interpret the silence as one way or the other, but they are technically a contractor of the government. So I'm sure they're shut down just like everybody is. And really, I think with COVID, people tend to be a little precautious about what and how they advertise right now. They don't want to be insensitive to the people in our community who are higher at risk or have chosen to stay home. So I think sometimes silence is like the easiest way to kind of, give comfort to as many people as possible and not, encourage them to go out if that's the inappropriate thing to be doing. So I know people have been bringing their passports by for curbside. So you can come pick up a beer and we will stamp it for you. But, you don't see a lot of people advertising that right now.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. So I did love the Springfield neighborhood. It's got that classic old town, traditional middle America sort of Main Street feel there. How have businesses along the road sort of been handling this? Have you seen a lot of closures, or are you anticipating a lot of closures if this continues on, or is everybody sort of banded together just in that specific little area of Jacksonville?
That's a great question. The answer is I'm not quite sure. I would, and if I did know for certain what some of these people's positions was, I certainly wouldn't want to reveal them all the time. But I can speak for at least maybe there's actually 3 breweries now in Springfield, one a whole block north of us, called Strings Sports. So they're like,
okay, yeah,
I've
seen them. I've seen them.
I know, so Strings has a kitchen, unlike Main and Six and Us, and they actually turned their kitchen into a relief kitchen. So they got a grant, and they were helping people by delivering meals to the less fortunate or nurses and things like that. I know Main and Six and Hyperion chose to do curbside, and that has sustained both of us so far. And then there's nearby restaurants and bars. They all are closed at varying levels. The restaurants have started to reopen, and most people, we're all small businesses, and we're all less than 3 years old or about 3 years old, because our commercial revitalization is young. I mean, we're only talking 3 years. I mean, Hyperion was one of the major catalysts in the whole neighborhood kind of coming back. I mean, Main and Six and the restaurant across us, we all happened in the same year. So a situation like this can be really dire for us as I'm not sure if you guys get into business stuff too much here, but
no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely something that we kind of want to talk about a lot, because one of the things that we've heard a lot in terms of the difficulties are things like PPP loans and such as that, because these are small businesses. These are not multinational conglomerates. And for the most part, the craft beers and the craft breweries that I know Steve and I personally like to go to are those people that are like you, is a couple people with a dream and, a couple recipes in their back pocket. So business-wise, how difficult has it been with everybody sort of banding together? You were going to go down that pathway.
Yeah, I really wish I had like a great analogy. I always tell people running a business like Hyperion is always like a roller coaster anyway. You have your highs and your lows, and pretty much everything is exciting and scary all at the same time. And so you add elements like having to go through a PPP process to get a loan to take care of the people on your payroll, and the stress levels are crazy. I'm only 28, and I got all the gray hairs coming in, and they're all Hyperion gray hairs. And we all of them are family owned. There's family and friends, so the stakes are so high when you have your small business. It directly impacts the people you know and love the most, because they're all the ones supporting you or working with you.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mention Strings, because they have the on-site kitchen, so they are opening. I do know that Intuition decided to open a little bit past them. I don't know if anybody else in Jacksonville could theoretically open. Is that the case, or have you heard of others that are opening?
Like you said in the beginning, just the ones who have kitchens, so that would be also Pumpkin 15 and Wicked Barley.
Gotcha. So there's really not a whole lot, unfortunately.
I think that's 4 out of potentially 15 or 20 breweries.
Which is a shame. As a small brewery business owner, are there places where you can go, especially here in the state, to where you can get business help and information from other breweries, and how that's very specific niche you can sort of work with?
So here in Florida, we have our guild. It's called the Florida Brewers Guild. And Sean Nordquist is our, I'm going to mess it up. I think he's our executive director, but he's basically our guy, our head guy.
Yeah.
And they developed a community forum, so we've been using a lot of that. So, every day or a couple of days we'll go on, and we are commenting on different topics for each other. I think that's the biggest resource that we use. As far as COVID related, there's a plethora. In fact, I get way too many emails about all the resources available to us. Maybe when COVID's done, we'll stop sending me 60 emails a day about the FDA.
I almost hate to say this question, but as a business owner with COVID going on, are you getting a lot of spam or a lot of people of dubious morality messaging you on occasion?
No, I wouldn't say anyone's dubious. I would say, okay, we're all human, right? We all want to connect with each other. We want to show that we care, especially when it's business to business. You know, the guys who do my glassware, the guys who do my T-shirts, the guys who take care of our taxes and our legal stuff. I mean, they all just want to reach out and say, here's the same 4 links to the SBA in case you didn't see them from anyone else. And they're just doing it out of kindness. But no, most of the emails we're getting are like redundancies.
Gotcha. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned the glassware. I'd like to actually shift to get a feel for how Hyperion is. And I do remember the other co-owner that I spoke to, Sherry Schuster, had shown me your master flight of everything. What was that called again? I can't remember.
Oh, the Big Gym.
And how many is that again?
It's 15 6-ounce pours, which has got to be about like 3.5 beers, 4 beers. We don't encourage people to drink it by themselves. But
I was told that you can't drink it by yourself, actually. So
we don't like to do it. It's a bad position for us, liability wise.
Nice. So I know that you had you had decided to actually go ahead and start into the cores. What are the core beers that are at Hyperion, and what is sort of the, I guess, vision and style that Hyperion Brewing sort of carved out for itself within the Jacksonville beer community?
Yeah, so I think the first 6 would be Celine Citrine, which is a blood orange blonde. Hot
Okay.
Pea, which is what we call our signature IPA. It's like a single, but it's got some different hop varietals in it because we're smaller, so we can get things that at smaller scales. We've got Phoebe's Peavy, which is a peanut butter porter, which is delicious. That one's my favorite. We have Porch Fest Gold, which is a British golden ale. So it's kind of like our light version. We don't make a lager, so it's kind of like the closest thing we do when we recommend lagers to people. What am I missing? Got one more, I think. That's good for now. That's like the first one.
Now, I'll be honest with you. The one style that you did not say that I was sort of expecting was a cream ale, because it seemed that every single place that I went to had a cream ale on tap. And look at Bold City, they've got 3 very strong year-round beers, and one of those is a cream ale. It's not their biggest, but it's one of those. So I've never seen a cream ale city quite like Jacksonville. Is that just something that you've seen with everybody? Is it just sort of happened, or was it maybe a byproduct of? Mm-hmm.
I think it's an accident. I don't think we actually make cream ales. We do sometimes when we talk about making a beer, a core or a seasonal. We really do look at the market. We don't. In order to be different, when you come and enjoy a beer at Hyperion, we want you to get something that you can't necessarily get at the others. So some of the like one-offs that are weird that you can get only at Hyperion would be High Tea. It's an Earl Grey amber ale. I mean, that beer tastes like Earl Grey, but nice, carby, fizzy, super easy to drink. And that's kind of unique. And then another would be Vishnu's Reality, which is a coconut curry milk stout. So like nutmeg, yellow curry, and all kinds of like those Indian spices going on with like a smooth, creamy finish. So we don't make a cream ale because we're trying to be different. So we want to have something a little bit different than our peers.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm taking a look at the ones that I had when I was there, and it's been a little while, but it's White Mocha Stout was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the other one, I'm trying to pull it up, was a coffee pumpkin ale called I Can't Even. And
yeah.
And I'll tell you, one of the things that I noticed about the Hyperion menu over the other breweries that I'd been to was how inventive and how sort of not specifically crazy, but alternative it got. It wasn't quite as trendy as Ardwolf liked to do, but it wasn't as working man as like Intuition or Tabula Rasa got. So it was an interesting style. Is it difficult to keep trying to come up with recipes that do that, or is your brewing team pretty good and pretty well ahead of what they want to do trend wise?
I think sometimes we find ourselves trying to follow a trend, trying to do what's popular in the world and be relevant, right, without being too kitschy or gimmicky. In fact, I think probably the marketing ownership side of our team versus the brewing side is kind of always at odds a little bit. So like I'll call Matt up and be like, hey, I've got this great idea. I think it'll be our next crazy batch of beer. He says, no, that's ridiculous. That's not real beer. That's a gimmick. You can't do it. You got to stay true to our beer. So it is great having him internally because we have those real healthy debates. And so that's how we get in the middle with something that's reasonable, but not like, off in left field. So I think our team is good because they come from different perspectives.
Excellent. And speaking of perspectives, one of the things that is very evident is that when you take a look at most craft breweries and the ownership of craft breweries, they probably look more like Steve than anything else. I would say me, but my beard isn't quite long enough.
It's getting there though with the quarantine going on.
Yeah, well, my hair is definitely, I desperately need a haircut, but it's more important to be safe. So let's be perfectly honest about that. Was there a lot of difficulty being a female getting into craft beer, or did you manage to find enough? And there are several that I can think of right off the top of my head, female owners within the state of Florida that were able to sort of shine a little light for you, such as, Steve just disappeared. I don't know why. Such as Bold City, like you had mentioned earlier.
No, like I said, here behind the scenes, things tend to be a lot more friendly. I don't know if it's our environment. We're in the South. People tend to be pretty hospitable. Or a lot of the brewery owners here in Jacksonville are younger. They're not older. I don't know if that has something to do with it. Younger, I mean, as in like they're maybe under 50.
Yeah.
So I haven't really met any resistance because of my gender, which has been nice. I think we've been given a fair shot to do what we do here and showcase what we make and what we brew. Yeah, it's been great. I can't really complain at all.
Okay, excellent. So I will definitely give you a slightly modified version of the last question that I always provide to everybody when they come on the show. Obviously, you've had to make some pretty bizarre and pretty difficult and pretty forward-thinking business changes to get through the quarantine the way that it is right now. Once everything is back operational and we are fully 100%, this is finally behind us. Are there any changes that you made yourself at Hyperion or that you have seen other breweries make to great effect that you think are going to be a normal part of your day-to-day operation from this point forward?
Yeah, the big one is to-go service. So, I mean, we've always done it. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but we've never done it in the way that we do now, where you can call ahead, like you would to order food. We have it ready, you pick it up, and you walk out. That never existed. We were just sort of experimenting with having a cooler where you walk in, there's already beer packaged, you can walk out and take it home. But the problem is you want that to be a fresh product, right? The whole idea is quality.
Yeah.
So this whole to-go really forced us to figure out a way to do that effectively, and I think that's here to stay. I don't think that's going to go away. I think everyone's going to expect that forever now. And then the other one is delivery. However, I will state this, it's still technically illegal here in Florida for us to do it because of 3-tier distribution laws, and that could be a whole segment for you. That's a whole
lifetime of issues that we can discuss. So,
but I will tell you, the breweries here in Jacksonville are definitely talking about it. So again, behind the scenes, the breweries are pushing for it. They want the ability to do it. It has a segue conversation into self-distribution. And so you're going to see a lot of people ask, hey, customers, hey, guests, rally with us. This is what we want here in Florida. It helps you. And here's how we have to get it done. You've got to be loud, and you've got to tell Tallahassee and all the people over there who represent you that you want to be able to buy all types of craft beer at all types of retailers.
Perfect. Yeah, that's that may be another topic of discussion. May have to get some lawmakers on the show to discuss that, because it's going to be a long battle, but I think a lot of people are going to be very happy at the end. So, Alexandra McKeown from Hyperion Brewing, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tomorrow we are still going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern, and we are continuing where we left off with last week's slightly truncated Hopped Up Network week with Brew Chat from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Better on Draft, and I'm not totally sure where they're from, but it's going to be interesting to try to find that out.
Nice.
That's just how we roll here sometimes, unfortunately. So if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to us, hit that little bell button below. Find us on Facebook, on Instagram, at Florida Beer Blog, floridabeerblog.com. Alex, thank you so much. When we are back in Jacksonville, and I definitely want to drag Steve up there kicking and screaming as fast as I can, we will definitely be by Springfield, because it looks like there's even more stuff to enjoy up there.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.